And I am so glad tonight to have on with us tonight Nancy Solari. She is going to embrace us in change. And so that is exactly what our topic is tonight. And I am delighted to have her. Hello, Nancy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's great having you. I tell you what, I thought you would be perfect to be able to talk about change because you've experienced a great deal of it in your lifetime. And so tell me a little bit about your background. Now, you have this fantastic group that you actually do, and I just want to be able to give everyone the information out there. It's called Living Full Out, and I thought that that was so great because that's exactly what we need to do in our lives, whether we're married, in a committed relationship, or just being single. We need to always live our life full out. So I thought that you would be perfect to be able to talk about this embracing change.
Well, again, thank you for having me. And absolutely, if people want to learn more, they can go to livingfullout.com. But you nailed it. I mean, really living full out, especially when you're considering transitioning from a relationship to a new one, it's really turning a new page. It's starting a chapter. So rather than looking behind you at your past and what went wrong and the woulda, coulda, shouldas and the regrets, it's really kind of waking up with excitement and saying, you know what, I'm turning a page, I'm starting a new chapter, and this new relationship in my life, my new activities, whatever you're going to take on, that's what it means to live full out. It's just having that excitement and joy for life.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into embracing this change and this, living a full out life? How did you start that?
Well, there's so many challenges I've faced in my life, from witnessing domestic violence. I'm actually legally blind. I have a condition called retinitis pigmentosa. Throughout my later 30s and so forth, I've experienced infidelity and miscarriages and you name it. And the reason why I bring that up is because all of that had to do with change. I had to get used to not seeing and living in a blind world, yet keeping up with the sighted folks, and especially dating when you're blind. I mean, there's plenty of stories that go along with that. Also all the different losses, having relationships fail for one reason or another, but I decided not to look at them as the failing. I really appreciated what each man taught me. And I became really the best version of myself today. I mean, it's kind of like good wine, right? It takes a while to season, and then at some point, you're really ready to give all of your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So often we do go through these changes. And sometimes I have a philosophy, or my way of thinking is that I feel that with each step that we incur, if I could only talk tonight, but each step along the way, it's actually some sort of learning experience for us, isn't it? If we can embrace what's happening to us rather than, of course, we have the trauma of what we're experiencing. But when we get through that, oh my gosh, shock, then we can step back and say, wait a minute, what am I supposed to learn from this, right?
Absolutely. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to feel it through. And what I mean by that is, if you're in your mind about it and you're going over and over and over again, different scenarios of what went wrong or what could I have done differently, that will just drive you bananas, right? But you want to feel with your heart. You want to listen to songs. And if a song makes you cry, then you know what? Cry it out. And if a song, makes you get all revved up and snap, I'm moving on to a new person, then let that be your guide. Or, even turning to certain touches, the touch of someone's hand, a hug. I think sometimes when we're talking to somebody, like even right now, I wish I could hug your audience and tell them I'm here, that you're here, we got them, and as great as online is, sometimes we need that friend to give us a hug, to hold our hand, to say, you know what, you're awesome as you are, because sometimes we forget that when we're going in and out of relationships.
I totally agree that it's just sometimes the path that we take, we don't really understand why we're on this particular road. And so sometimes when we just let ourselves go and experience it, like you said, listen, if you feel like you're going to, you want to cry, just play songs that make you cry and just get it over with. Just get into that groove, let yourself go. don't beat yourself up for being sad, and just live in that moment, but then step out of it. So often, I worry about those that stay into the sadness too long. They play their story too long. It's almost like a broken record. They're playing it over and over again, and they're not learning from maybe what it is that they've experienced. So what would you say, what kind of advice could you give them if they're just kind of playing that song over and over again?
Well, there's a couple suggestions. Number one, if you're a writer, I want you to journal. Just write it all down. Everything they did wrong, everything you did wrong, everything you wish you had done, right? You've got to get it out of your head. You've got to get it out of your heart and get it on paper. And then you could, if it's on the computer, you can choose to save it or just write it, read it, and then hit delete. But at least you vented. Or if you want to write it down, do so. I personally use a recorder. And when I go through hardships in my life, I will sometimes record myself kind of flushing out what is that negative thought in my head. And then when you go back a day later, when you're out of your funk and you listen to that, you're almost going to feel really bad and really sorry for that version of you that sank so low. So what I'm getting at is sometimes we have to allow ourselves to purge, put it on writing, put it in a recorder, kind of document how we feel. Then a day later, I want you to go back and read what you wrote or hear what you said. And I want you to coach yourself as if you were being a best friend to yourself. How would you guide yourself? Because sometimes we all give the best advice to other people, right? But when it comes to ourselves, we get a little sideways.
Yeah, that's so right. I was just the other day, one of my girlfriends, that we were talking about it, and she goes, so what would you tell someone else? And I would say something, and I'd make the answer, and she goes, so you have the answer. You just don't want to kind of listen to it yourself. So often we do give great advice to other people, but when it comes to us, we're just a little bit more insecure about maybe trusting our own voice. And so maybe that's something that we have to kind of learn, right? Learn to live with, learn to move forward in.
Exactly. And that's why when you can write it down or put your thoughts in a recorder, now you can actually step aside and be a witness to what you're going through. Otherwise, it's really hard to coach yourself when you're in your head because you're battling out these thoughts. And, the other thing that I've learned, which hopefully I think people will resonate with this too, is sometimes we have to really diagnose, is the reason why we're sad about a relationship ending, is it because we were longing for what we wish it, or are we really missing what it was? And a lot of times there's a big distinction there, and what we actually cry for is what we wish it had always been, but it's not to say that that's the reality of what it was. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely makes sense. I know that even in my own relationships, I can relate to that, hanging on too long because you're still hoping that it's going to change and there's going to be some sort of shift, and the end result is going to be what you totally wish and hope it will be. But the reality is you're living in this life, and it's not quite like what you can't actually change the ending as much as you want to. But what you can change is yourself, right? You can change the story that you're going to write.
Well, and I think also sometimes we have to be good to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we put too much pressure that we have to be perfect, that we have to check a certain box, that we have to hang in there. But truly, there's so many factors that we have to control, that we have to think about, right? As we go through our life, like decade to decade to decade, we grow and we change. If you have a financial loss or gain, that can change you. If you have a career change, that can change you. So sometimes it's not just the relationship. And I have coached plenty of people at Living Full Out where their partner was supportive as long as that person stayed the same. But if they wanted more for their life, their partner kind of rejected that or, pulled them away from growing. And you have to let life unfold.
That's very true. And the thing is, we are all evolving, aren't we? I always tell everyone we're not the same person we are at this very moment, what will be tomorrow, because with each movement we make, we've learned something along the way. We've made some sort of analysis of what we want to probably change in our lives. So we are ever evolving. So it's very important that we embrace that.
Absolutely. And I just kind of want to give a visual here for everybody. Just, whether you one day write your own memoir or whether you have a journal that you're proud of, whatever that is, just consider that it's your life story. You're the main character. Everybody, every relationship, romantic, friendship, business partner, those are just supporting characters in your story. And even a romantic relationship, it doesn't mean that they're in every chapter, right? We see it. If you watch a Lifetime movie, if you read a romance novel, right? There's chapters. There's ins and outs of people's lives. So I want people to kind of release the fact that everything has to stay the same. You just keep turning the page and being you. I think it's really important to remember that, we're born into this world and a doctor and hopefully our parents greet us and everybody's excited. But eventually we're going to leave this world and we don't know who's going to be there on our way out. But every experience, every person in between is just meant to complement your story. But part of that is letting go and embracing change.
That's very well said. That's so true. And I love the idea that we can write our story. We are in the midst of doing that. And so we can write a character right out if we want. And we can put a new one in. So how excited is that to think that we can do that? That's probably not fun.
And you know what? Have a little humor with it, right? If you date someone and it didn't go so well, and honestly, it was kind of a fast start, and it ended quickly. Well, maybe that person's chapter is mighty small. It might be a page, and that's okay. Turn that page with excitement, right?
Right. Move on to the next. Absolutely. It is fun to think that we are, so often when we're coming through a relationship loss and we're trying to, do this transfer into new relationship, building our own relationship, it gets kind of scary and it's kind of dark and whatever. But if we can think that we actually have control of writing our own story, it gives us a little bit of security, makes us feel a little bit stronger that we have some sort of decisions in our lives that we can make.
Exactly. You are the writer. You are the one that gets to put the final ending on that last chapter. And when I talk about change, and I realize it's scary. Trust me, I have had plenty of times over breakups where I've been super sad. But at the same time, we've all felt the butterflies, right? That first date, it's what am I going to wear? Or those moments when you hear I love you for the first time, or you have your song, right? A couple has their song. And those are great moments. And then also, the thing I want to share with everybody today is if you are out there dating, have it be an experience with your friends. I mean, sure, you might not have a lot of single friends, but I'm sure there's a new gal pal or a guy mate that you can meet. I know for myself, just because since I'm legally blind, like going online, like on Match.com or eHarmony, I can't go and see the men's pictures. And so I will call a friend of mine. She'll pour a glass of wine. I'll pour a glass of wine. She'll log into my account. We'll read through the profiles. And so it's funny. I date with my friends. And I get their input. And then sometimes the stories are really funny later when I go on the date.
I bet that can be very funny. And it is fun to share it with your friends, to enjoy it. I did that a while back with one of mine, and it was kind of funny. We actually went on. It's been a while. We went on this one where you just it's a call-in. It's not even online. It's just a call-in number.
Wow.
And you call in, and I never heard of such a thing. And we did this. It was a couple of years ago, I guess. And we did it, and we were laughing the whole time. And I said something like, and I have all my real teeth, I I said things like that in it, and I got more comments about it that the guys loved it because we were giggling. I was giggling, I was laughing through it, and they really liked that side, that personality. I never actually met anyone with that particular. I mean, had a lot of people that wanted to meet me, but then I ended up meeting somebody else and went and dated them. But yeah, but that was fun. I sometimes we just keep things low but light, right? It helps us so that we
Absolutely.
don't get so bogged down with all of the symmetrics of what's going to be happening.
Absolutely. I mean, when you go on a date, you have to think, maybe this will be my next soulmate. Maybe, but maybe it'll be a friend. Maybe it's the perfect person for another person, a friend of yours. You and I aren't going to work out, but you'd be great for my friend, right? So the thing is, if you put a lot of pressure on a date that it has to be the one, or there has to be this instant chemistry, that's a lot of pressure. You just want to show up, again, enjoy every moment of deciding, what am I going to wear? Yeah, take that time, get your hair looking great, pick a venue that you're excited to go to, and then meet the person. And it will either be an amazing connection, chemistry-wise, for the two of you. Maybe you'll convert them into a friend, or you know what? Maybe it'll just be one of those really funny dates that you can tell a friend, But either way, if you don't go walking out that door and you don't take that chance, you'll never know, and you'll never have that story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, tell me a little bit about hurdles. Now, you, of course, being legally blind, that is a bit of a hurdle for you. I mean, so how do you go about, and I want to bring this up because some people are very insecure about the way they look. Maybe they might be a little heavier. Maybe now they're out there dating and they've lost all their hair. There's differences about them now that they feel a little bit insecure. So how do you handle just your own personal situation, and how would you recommend for them to be able to step forward without dealing with some of the insecurities that they might very well have?
That is a great question. And I will start with my experience first, because the lesson of what I'm trying to teach will be in that. So again, being legally blind, just so everybody kind of has a reference point, is I can see patches of light and dark, but I can't see the details of people's faces, or I can't see like the edges of a stair, or like even the edge of like a couch or a chair. So truly, I have to feel my way through to where I'm going. Now, the interesting thing is whether I'm going on a date or whether I'm meeting someone for the first time, I can't see their face. So I kind of fill in the gaps of what I think they look like based upon their personality. So if they're outgoing, that might make me think they look a certain way. If they have an accent, I might think they look a certain way. Even some visual, even other cues, like the way they smell, if they have a perfume or a cologne of some type. When I shake their hand, like if it's a really sturdy handshake, I might think, wow, this person works out. This is the handshake. Wow. And so I kind of fill in what I think they look like. And then later on, once I get to know them better, sometimes I nail it and I'm spot on, and other times I'm so far off. But the great thing is, going blind has not been a walk in the park. Trust me, there's been a lot of, scary moments of it getting worse, and then it would get worse. Oh my gosh, is it going to get worse? And then it would get worse. But it's also given me that gift of connecting with people in the way that I'm not looking at what they visually look like. Homeless. I don't see different cultures. I don't see race. It's just really who the person is for. And I really think we can all do that. Maybe your next date, take a really, really dark restaurant as your venue. He can't see you. You can't see him, right? Because there are some of those restaurants that are super dark. And really get to know the person on their personality. Or talk on the phone for an extended amount of time. Share pictures if you want, but really get to know that person. That would be my first advice. The second thing I want to say too is when we allow people to be a part of our world, not just in the somebody looks, it can really bring down the barriers of vulnerability. So you might be thinking, oh, I'm overweight, or I wish my eyebrows were done, or whatever. But you know what? The other person is going to have their own insecurities too. And when you can kind of laugh at yourself, when you can kind of be playful, it's going to allow that person to be like, gosh, you know what? I'm so glad you said that. Does that make sense? It brings down those walls. So it's not about being perfect. It's just about being you.
Absolutely. I think that is so right on. And so often we put so much into what someone looks like rather than the quality of the person, and I think that it's very, very important that if we want a long-term, when we're truly looking for a long-term relationship, we're not looking at, what they actually look like. We're looking at the character of the person, the core of that individual. And that's what has to be strong and important. So, yeah, I think that's really good.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add to that, again, because I think part of it is we put a lot of pressure on that date, on that potential partner. But just think about the friends in your life, right? They're shorter, they're whiter, they do their own little nuances that you might make fun of. So why should your potential partner not have that same opportunity, right? And vice versa. So I think that a lot of times looking at the friends that we have in our life and all the flaws or quirks that they may have, we love them anyway. So this new person that you're meeting, rather than judging them on what they look like or do they have the right car or the right house, they have to say and love them like you would love a friend.
It's funny because I went out with a guy one time that was very short, extremely shorter than me, and I'm quite tall. I'm 5'8", so I'm tall. And he was, if he was 5 foot, it would have been amazing, I think. But he was very short, and I remember I had a really great time with him. And then he turned to me and he goes, "Well, so does my height bother you?" And I said, "Well, does my height bother you?" Because it's the same way. I mean, he was worried about himself being so much shorter than me. And, there again, what about me being so much taller? So
I bet all night he was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I bet, you released him and you gave him the opportunity to just flourish and be him. That's a beautiful moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We laughed. It was kind of funny, and then it just went on from there. I mean, the relationship didn't blossom, but he was a very nice person, but it was true. That type of thing doesn't bother me so much. It's just it's the core of the person. It's what you're really looking for. So I think if those are out there that are dating, I think they need to back it up a little bit and really think, rather than think about, swiping to the left, swiping to the right. They need to actually hit the middle and read the profile and really, kind of get to the depth of that person to see if maybe it's somebody they're truly compatible with.
Yeah, and sometimes I think we have to shake it up. I mean, I'll be honest, there was a string of guys there where everybody's first name started with J. And I remember going online thinking, okay, I cannot date a guy with the letter J. It's got to be any other letter. I'm switching it up. You know what I mean? So again, have fun with it. But maybe take a peekaboo at the different types of partners that you have been with. And maybe just be adventurous and try dating other people and see, how that goes. You might go back and say, a certain style or look of a person, and that's fine. But at least you tried. I think the important thing in life is you always want to look back and say, I tried. I did my best to make that relationship work, but eventually I had to let it go. And you know what? I gave that dating site 3 months, 6 months. I tried, but at least you gave it time. Mm-hmm. So that's the big moral of the story. Just putting yourself out there and trying.
Right. Now, let me ask you, when a lot of these individuals that I speak with, they're traveling from getting back into the career sector. And so let's say they thought they were going to be retired now. A lot of the women thought they were going to be retired. Some of the guys thought they would be retired. But they're now having to get back into the field of work. So this adjustment is quite a difficult thing for them. Could you suggest anything, how they can try to adapt to this new change that's happening in their lives?
When you're doing a career change, again, there's some reason why you're doing that. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you need to make more money. Maybe your company, closed. Who knows? But again, I think you have to, I guess, keep the faith or just trust in the process. So even though it might feel uncomfortable, a lot of uncertainty, and, oh, I really don't want to do this. When things happen in my life, these hurdles, these curveballs, these disappointments, I kind of surrender to it and I say, you know what? For some reason, I'm meant to be here right now. For some reason, I am meant to transition out of this relationship. For some reason, my day was long, but it got even longer, right? For some reason, I was not meant to work with that client. Do you see it? I think that rather than fighting and willing something to happen, you have to let go and just say, you know what, this feels uncomfortable. I'm not even sure if I like it, but I'm going to learn something from this. I'm going to, see if I can learn a new skill. Maybe I'll make a new friend. Maybe I'll make a little extra money, right? So I think that's the lesson is kind of looking at what can we gain from the experience rather than fighting it.
That's very good advice. I was thinking as you were talking was that if you think about it, if you're coming out of something, right, and you're moving forward into, let's say, a new career, a new business, something, you're meeting a whole nother circle of people. And so this way you're opening yourself up to all of these new experiences with these other people. And so you can learn, number one, you can learn a lot from them. You can create new relationships with them. You never know where that's going to lead you, because sometimes you do meet someone, if you're single, you meet someone through your work that you happen to hit it off with or whatever. I mean, so there's a lot of variables and a lot of possibilities that you could actually embrace. So, sometimes you wonder the path that you're on, we question it and we sometimes don't like it, but it seems like sometimes the bends in the road really is going to get us to where we want to be at the end if we just keep traveling down it.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, and I don't know if anybody else in this community has experienced that, but it's really actually more challenging to sit across from the perfect person that's had the perfect life, never a struggle, not even a broken nail, right? At some point, what do you talk about, right? So you almost want to say to life, okay, give me the challenges, right? I mean, maybe not all at one time, right? When it rains, it pours kind of thing, right. But space them out. But give me those hurdles. Give me those experiences. Because now when you're on a date, you have a lot to talk about. And maybe common ground where both of you have a shared experience of loss, two people that have been in a shared experience of divorce or being widows or multiple breakups. That's common ground. Mm-hmm. Or, again, when you're meeting people at a networking function or just out and about meeting a stranger, it is what we might think of ourselves as flaws or our quirks or the hardships or the hurdles. Those are actually your superpower moments. Those are what connect you to the other people. Those are what give you something to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very good advice. That's wonderful advice. Well, tell me a little bit about the radio show that you have.
Thank you. Yeah, it's called Living Full Out. It's a national program. And what we've done with it is we've dedicated parts of our show where people can call in on the 800 line. And as a certified life coach, I'm always standing by and I'm taking their calls. And I mean, we get breakup questions. We get, my child won't move out and he's 23 and I want him to move out. We get, my life is out of balance. I'm overwhelmed. And so we take the calls and we try to give as much relatable advice as we can. And then we also interview inspirational guests on the show. These are people that have overcome a tragedy, an accident, a meltdown, a crisis, or maybe they have a disability like me, being blind, and they share with us how they cope or how they manage through life. And it's just really inspiring. And I will share with all of you that, again, going blind has not been easy. But I listen to these people on the other end of the mic for me, and I'm blown away by the resilience that we all have. And when we watch TV, like even some of these singing competitions or other shows, aren't you in awe of what people have overcome? Like, wow, I can't believe they got through that. But the most amazing thing is, what I want your entire community to understand is each of us have that story. We're all that person of resilience. So that person you see on TV, they're not any better, any more special than you.
Now, how can we find your show?
You can go to livingfullout.com, and that's probably the best way to access the radio show, coaching, blogs, you name it. And then also you can follow us on all of the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. And I just mentioned those because not only do we hear people's stories on the radio show, but we're constantly telling people's stories on social media too. So we just want to keep you all inspired. And so go to livingfullout.com. Also, I want to feel like they can reach out to me. So if they have a question, even if they have a story of resilience, maybe we'll have you on the show, right? And they can reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. That's probably the best way, or give us a call at 310-909-7800.
I was very impressed with your show and also your website. I thought it was very good. It's very helpful. You're definitely touching and changing lives. So we need more people like you around. And so it's really great that I was really honored that you reached out to me and wanted to be a guest on the show. It's really great to have you here. I think this is a very good show. And it's one that definitely, we all need encouragement. We all need to know that there's a connection out there that we can make with other people, that we're not so alone. We're not just by ourselves traveling through. And even though each of our stories are unique in their own right, there are similar aspects that we have to, endure. And so it's nice to have the connection.
I'm glad that it worked out that way for this show, because I don't want you to experience the show based upon what you see in terms of looking at both of us. I want you to listen to the show based on what your heart felt and what it heard, and let that be the guide.
Yeah, absolutely. However, we do look good a little bit for you. One of those, when they take the photo and they're doing the little filtering. Well, we've got it going on here tonight, so we're looking really good.
Nice.
Yeah, so you just have to take the cup and turn it upside down. That's the way.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've shared a lot with us tonight, and it's a lot of great, I think, golden nuggets that we can take with us so that we can help move along. And I really love the idea and the inspiration about putting aside what someone looks like and what our expectations are of them and looking deeper within the person. I think it's a lesson I think we can all learn, can all appreciate.
And I just want everybody to think about this. The next time you go on a date or you're at a networking function, okay, I'm not saying you have to put a blindfold on, and I'm not saying you have to close your eyes, but I want you to actually really, really try to experience the smell of that person, the touch of their hand or their hug, the sound of their voice, maybe the taste of their kiss if you kiss them. But I want you to let that be the lead, and then see what butterflies you get. See how they make you feel, because it'll be a fun little experiment, and then let us know. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, that would be absolutely great. Definitely give you a call on your show and let you know how they experience that. So that would be really fun. That would be a
great guest. I welcome that. Whoever does that, contacts me at connect@livingfullout.com. I will have you on the show. We'll talk it out.
That's great. Well, I think we're just about ready to close out the show. So number one, give us all of your contact information again. Also, if you'd like to give any further information or any other words of advice you'd like to share with the audience, please do so.
Thank you. So again, the best way to reach me would be to go to livingfullout.com, and you can learn all about us there. You can hear the radio show that way. If you'd like to reach out to me, go ahead and send an email to connect@livingfullout.com. Again, if you have an inspirational story, perhaps we can have you on the show as a guest. I mean, that's what it's all about, sharing our stories. If you'd like to call us, you can reach us at 310-909-78, and we'd love to hear from you that way. Or go to all the social medias, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. But most of all, I really want you all to go out there and have fun. Like, leave the past in the past. like you're writing your story, turn that page. You're the writer, right? You can have it go any way you want. But most of all, live full out, arms wide open, no fear, and just go for it.
That's great advice. Absolutely. I love that. And I love the idea that we can write our own story. We can just keep adding different chapters to it. We can just keep moving through it, moving forward. That's what it's all about. And so you have been a delight to have on the show. And I want to thank you so much. I do appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.